if you look at the automotive industry today, it can feel a bit like a giant cautious algorithm.
Oh, absolutely.
Like car companies input market research, focus groups, emissions regulations into this massive spreadsheet. And what spits out on the other side is usually a very sensible, very safe, heavily electrified crossover SUV.
Yeah, that's the formula right now.
And nobody has mastered that spreadsheet quite like Toyota.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they are the undisputed kings of cautious, reliable transportation. But, every once in a while, there's a glitch in the matrix.
A very intentional glitch.
Exactly. A moment where the spreadsheet just gets thrown entirely out the window. And that glitch is our mission for this deep dive today.
I am so excited for this one.
Me too. So we are pulling from a fascinating stack of automotive analysis, engineering breakdowns, and corporate profiles to really look at the newly revealed Toyota GR GT.
Yeah.
Because this is a car that logically, financially, and even chronologically, it really shouldn't exist in 2025.
It is an absolute anomaly. I mean, to understand the physical piece of machinery we're looking at today, you really have to understand the mind of the company that built it.
Right.
And right now, Toyota is essentially two totally different companies living inside the same corporate body.
Yeah, it's wild.
On one hand, you have the Toyota you probably see, 5 times on your morning commute, the maker of the Prius, the RAV4, those sensible hybrids, keeping the world moving.
The spreadsheet car.
Exactly, the spreadsheet cars. But on the other side of the building, you have Gazoo Racing, or GR, and this is Toyota's motorsport division, and they are, frankly, unhinged.
Totally unhinged.
They are out there winning at Le Mans, building purist sports cars, and seemingly just burning through development budgets way faster than the accountants can track.
Which is amazing for us.
Right. And the GR GT is the explosive collision of those two worlds.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the central thesis of our sources is that this isn't just like a marketing stunt.
No, not at all.
This isn't a recycled sports car with a wider body kit glued on. This is the biggest, most irrational risk Toyota has taken since they shocked the world with the legendary LFA supercar over a decade ago.
Yeah, that's a huge comparison.
It is. But you really don't get a sense of just how blank that check was until you look under the insanely long hood. We really need to establish the facts, the anatomy of this monster, before we get into the psychology behind it.
We definitely do.
And the layout here just defies everything the industry is currently doing. I mean, they didn't just borrow an engine from a Lexus coupe. This is an all-new 4.0-liter twin-turbo V8.
And that specific detail, it's crucial to understanding the scale of this project.
Right.
In an era where companies are downsizing to 4 cylinders or just relying entirely on batteries to save development costs, Toyota went and built a clean-sheet motorsport engine specifically for this car.
Which is just crazy money.
Insane money. And it uses what's called a hot V layout.
Oh, right, the hot V.
Yeah, so normally turbochargers hang off the outside of the engine block. But in a hot V, they are nestled right inside the valley between the cylinder banks.
Like right on top.
Exactly. And this keeps the exhaust gases hotter and closer to the turbos, which, dramatically improves throttle response. And notably, it features a dry sump oil system.
Which is always a massive neon sign that a car is meant for the track.
Oh, 100%.
For anyone who hasn't spent time under the hood of a race car, a standard engine has an oil pan at the bottom, a wet sump. But if you take a tight corner at incredibly high speeds, the G-forces make all that oil just slosh to one side.
Which is terrifying because it leaves the engine components completely starved of lubrication.
Right.
And that will literally destroy an engine in seconds.
Not ideal.
No.
Yeah.
So a dry sump system essentially uses a pump to constantly vacuum the oil out of the engine and store it safely in a tall, separate reservoir.
Okay.
It guarantees perfect oil pressure no matter how violently you are cornering.
It's basically bulletproofing the engine for abuse. Oh. And they paired this brand new V8 with their D4S fuel injection system, which uses both direct and port injection.
Yeah, which again requires some explaining.
Definitely.
Direct injection shoots fuel straight into the combustion chamber for maximum power and cooling, but it can leave carbon buildup over time.
Right, the valves get gunky.
Exactly. So port injection sprays fuel earlier in the intake, which washes the valves clean and makes the engine idle smoother.
Ah, see.
Running both is super complicated, but it gives you the best of both worlds.
Okay, but the most bizarre part of this powertrain, at least for me, is the hybrid system.
Oh, this is fascinating.
Right, because when you hear Toyota hybrid, you immediately think of saving fuel, like silently rolling through a grocery store parking lot in a Prius.
Sure.
But here, they've buried a single electric motor inside the rear transaxle.
Yeah, you have to completely discard the Prius notion here. They've repurposed their own efficiency technology entirely for performance.
It's just for speed.
Basically, this electric motor exists solely to provide instant torque fill. Because internal combustion engines, especially turbocharged ones, they have a slight delay turbo lag before the power really hits.
Yeah, you hit the gas and wait a second.
Right. But the electric motor delivers maximum twisting force the exact millisecond you touch the pedal, covering up that lag while the turbochargers spool up.
It's an adrenaline shot. Think of it like a sprinter who gets a massive gust of wind at their back, the exact second the starting gun fires, pushing them forward until their own legs get up to top speed.
That is a great way to picture it.
The source material describes its purpose as purely to, and I love this quote, make more jam.
More jam. I love her.
And it makes a terrifying amount of it. The development targets are aiming for at least 650 PS, which is about 641 horsepower, and 627 pound-feet of torque.
Huge numbers.
And all of that fury is going exclusively to the rear wheels. There's no heavy all-wheel drive system to bail you out if you make a mistake.
No safety net.
None. The power travels from that front mid-mounted V8 through a lightweight carbon fiber torque tube all the way to an all-new 8-speed automatic transmission in the rear.
And we should note, this isn't a standard automatic. It uses a wet multi-plate clutch.
I have to admit, that confused me when I was reading through the specs.
Oh, so?
Well, why go through the trouble of engineering a wet multi-plate clutch? Like, why not just use a lightning-fast dual-clutch transmission like Porsche does with their PDK? Or even just a traditional torque converter automatic like the ones BMW uses in almost everything?
It's a very specific, deliberate engineering choice. A wet multi-plate clutch system, which is actually similar to what Mercedes-AMG uses with their MCT gearboxes. It replaces the fluid-filled torque converter with a stack of clutches bathed in oil.
Okay.
The goal is to offer a broader dynamic range.
What do you mean?
So a dual clutch can be jerky and awful at low speeds and stop-and-go traffic.
Oh, yeah, they shudder a lot.
Right. And a traditional automatic can feel a bit sluggish on a racetrack. But the wet multi-plate clutch gives you the smooth, low-speed drivability of a traditional automatic. But when you demand it, it locks up and delivers the violent, instantaneous gear changes of a race car.
Wow. Okay. That makes sense.
And it's paired directly with a mechanical limited slip differential to manage exactly how that power is distributed between the rear tires.
The packaging required to make all of this work just sounds like a nightmare.
Oh, it had to be.
I mean, it is technically a front-engine car, but it has a rear weight bias of 45 to 55. To pull that off, they've shoved the engine so far back behind the front axle that you practically have twin turbos sitting right between your knees in the cabin.
Basically, yeah.
And then the battery pack, the transmission, the fuel tank, everything heavy is pushed as far backward and downward as possible.
And that 45 to 55 ratio is not accidental at all.
Really?
No, if you want a car to accelerate out of a corner with 640 horsepower going only to the rear wheels, you need weight pushing down on those rear tires to create grip.
Oh, to keep them from just spinning into smoke.
Exactly. Pushing the engine back and putting the transmission in the rear achieves that perfect squatting dynamic.
Right.
And that extreme packaging really pays off on the scales. We're looking at a curb weight of 1,750 kilograms or roughly 300 and 850 pounds or less.
Now, 3,850 pounds is not a featherweight track toy. Like, it's heavier than a little GR86. But context is everything here.
Definitely.
When you compare it to its actual rivals, it's astonishing. It's only a few hundred pounds heavier than a hybrid Porsche 911 GTS, and it is nearly a full 1,000 pounds lighter than a hybrid Mercedes-AMG GT.
1,000 pounds of difference in a performance car is transformative.
It's half a car.
Basically, it changes how the car brakes, how it changes direction, and crucially, how it preserves its tires over a 20-minute track session.
It translates directly to the spec sheet, too. The source is, quote, a top speed of 199 miles per hour, which really feels like Toyota winking at us, leaving plenty of room to just announce the 200-mile-per-hour headline later.
Oh, they absolutely left that 1 mile per hour on the table on purpose.
Right. And 0 to 60 is expected in the low 3-second range on extremely sticky Michelin Cup 2 tires.
Cool.
But beyond the numbers, you have to look at the physical design. The source is very clear. This car was not designed to win a beauty contest.
No, it was designed to obey physics.
Yes.
Form followed function in the absolute strictest sense here. The aerodynamics dictated the shape long before the stylists even got involved.
It's just rare.
Very. The engineers sculpted how the air needed to flow over, under, and through the car to keep it glued to the track.
And you can really see that in the details. Like it has naked ducts everywhere.
Right.
For anyone unfamiliar, a naked duct is this very specific wedge-shaped cutout on the body of a car or an airplane. Instead of a scoop sticking out into the wind and creating drag, a naked duct is basically submerged into the bodywork, drawing air in to cool the brakes or the engine without disrupting the airflow over the car.
Precisely. And underneath that aerodynamic skin, you have Toyota's first all-aluminum space frame.
Oh.
Yeah, they are utilizing massive cast nodes and structural extrusions to create a really rigid skeleton. Then, draped over that skeleton, you have carbon fiber reinforced polymer, or CFRP, for the hood, the roof, and the major aerodynamic surfaces.
Which saves a ton of weight.
Huge amounts. And they are using the exact same highly specialized carbon weaving process they developed in-house for the LFA a decade ago.
That's incredible. Though they did keep aluminum for the doors and fenders, which feels like a rare moment of practicality here.
Very true.
Because if you scrape a barrier on a track day, replacing an aluminum fender won't require a second mortgage the way a bespoke carbon fiber panel would.
That is a very good point.
The physical footprint of the whole thing is just wild, though. It's longer and wider than a Porsche 911, but it sits as low to the ground as a Lamborghini.
It's a pancake.
Yeah. It has a rear diffuser that looks like it was just unbolted from a GT3 race car, daytime running lights that nod to their Le Mans hypercars, and yet the front nose is heavily inspired by the new Prius.
Which is so fun.
It is a completely bizarre mashup of functional extremes.
It really is. But, cataloging all of these extreme engineering choices, the bespoke V8, the carbon fiber, the radical hybrid transaxle, it begs a very serious question.
Why?
Why? Exactly. Building an all-new internal combustion engine and a completely bespoke chassis in 2025 is an incredibly expensive, borderline irrational financial decision for a company that is currently pouring billions into an electrified future.
Right. The spreadsheets say no.
The spreadsheets say absolutely not. So to understand the why, we have to look at the psychological driving force behind the entire project. And the source analysis points to one very specific emotion: humiliation.
Humiliation. That is not a word you usually associate with the most successful automaker on the planet.
No, it's not. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to look at the culture of Toyota's test drivers.
Oh, yeah?
For decades, they had a very specific, deeply frustrating experience at the Nürburgring.
The green hell.
Yes. The Nürburgring is that legendary, grueling German racetrack. It's basically where every serious performance car on Earth is benchmarked.
Right.
And for years, Toyota test drivers spent most of their time checking their rearview mirrors, constantly having to move over to be passed by prototypes from Porsche, BMW, and Mercedes.
Man, they were the slow kids on the playground.
Exactly. And the original LFA supercar was really the first project that finally allowed Toyota drivers to stop looking in their mirrors and start looking ahead.
Okay.
But even the LFA didn't erase the sting entirely. The inciting incident for the GRGT actually happened in 2010. Toyota entered the LFA in the grueling Nürburgring 24 hours endurance race.
And they actually won their specific class, right? The SB8 class.
They did.
Because on paper, that sounds like a massive triumph for a Japanese automaker on German soil.
It really should have been. But Akio Toyoda, the CEO, and the Gazoo Racing team, they were devastated.
Wait, why?
Because the overall winner of the race, the car that beat everyone, including their multi-million-dollar carbon fiber LFA masterpiece, was the BMW factory team driving a souped-up E92 M3.
Wait, an M3?
Yes, a modified version of a luxury coupe you could literally buy at a standard dealership.
Oh, man. I can imagine how crushing that would be. You bring a bespoke spaceship to the track, and you get beaten by a really well-tuned commuter car.
That loss stung deeply. So this car, the GRGT, it wasn't born in a marketing boardroom to create brand synergy.
Right.
It was born from an obsession to conquer the green hell. They wanted to build the fastest car there, period, to beat the Europeans at their own game on their home turf.
We really have to highlight Akio Toyoda's role in this, too. He is not a traditional CEO who spends all day looking at market projections.
Oh, no.
He actually operates under an alter ego, Morizo. He is a master test driver, trained by the legendary Toyota driver Hiromu Naruse.
Which is incredible.
Having a global automotive CEO who can personally take a prototype to the limit on a racetrack is completely unique in the industry. And his personal passion dictates that these cars don't prioritize 0 to 60 times or spec sheets. They prioritize driver connection.
Yes.
How the steering wheel communicates the grip of the tires, how the chassis rotates. It's what he calls the secret sauce.
And because Akio's motivation was forged entirely on the racetrack, born directly from that bitter loss to BMW, the physical development of the GR-GT had to be inverted.
Inverted how?
It completely flips how supercars are normally built.
Well, normally a company designs a high-end road car first. They make it fast, but they fill it with, sound deadening, leather seats, a premium stereo, and air conditioning.
Exactly.
Then maybe a few years later, the motorsport division gets hold of it. They strip all that heavy luxury stuff out, bolt on a huge rear wing, stiffen the suspension, and just try to reverse engineer it into a race car.
But Toyota refused to do that here. The GR-GT road car and the GR-GT3 race car were co-developed from day one. They share the same aluminum space frame, they share the same front-mid V8 layout, they share the same suspension hard points, the same aerodynamic priorities, even the exact same cooling requirements.
That's crazy.
The GR-GT isn't a road car adapted for the track. It is quite literally a race car that has been made just street legal enough that the government allows Toyota to sell it to the public.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Akio Toyoda is nearly 70 years old.
Right.
He stepped down as CEO recently to become chairman. He knows his time directly shaping these cars is coming to a close. But the source material makes a really poignant distinction. They argue this car is not about cementing his legacy, it's an inheritance.
That is a vital philosophical difference.
Yeah.
Legacy is entirely about ego. It's about making sure people remember how great you were after you're gone.
Right.
Inheritance is about what you leave behind as a tool for the next generation. Toyota is using the GR-GT as a canvas. It is a shield designed specifically to protect its engineers from the company's own bean counters.
It's a multi-million-dollar training ground. They are building this insanely complex emotional machine as a final masterclass in the internal combustion era.
Exactly.
Because they are terrified that the young incoming generation of Toyota engineers are just going to be software coders and battery chemists. They want to force this new generation to build a raw mechanical monster so they fundamentally understand how a vehicle is supposed to feel.
Yes.
They are passing down the secret sauce before the knowledge is lost forever.
Because the era of the internal combustion engine is definitively closing.
Right.
Which brings us to the harsh market reality of this project.
Let's talk money.
It is an emotional masterpiece, yes. But who is actually going to buy it, and how much is this masterclass going to cost?
There have been a ton of wild rumors flying around the internet about this. A lot of publications were predicting this was going to be a Lexus Halo car carrying a price tag of like $400,000 to $500,000.
I saw those.
But the sources we're looking at completely debunk that myth.
And the reasoning against a $500,000 price tag is very sound. If this were a hyper-expensive Lexus, it would be covered in Lexus L and F badges to maximize brand prestige.
Right.
People paying $500,000 want the luxury badge.
Of course.
But it doesn't have them. It leans heavily into the Gazoo Racing, the GR branding. And as you pointed out earlier, it features a front nose design visibly inspired by the standard Prius.
Yeah, you absolutely do not put a Prius nose on a $500,000 ultra-luxury supercar.
No, you do not.
So the analysis puts the logical market position somewhere around the $200,000 mark.
Okay.
That drops it right into the middle of a very serious, highly competitive neighborhood. It's meant to directly battle the Mercedes-AMG GT63, which starts around $180,000, and the Porsche 911 GTS at about $175,000.
Fierce competition.
Very. It sits comfortably above a $110,000 Corvette, but well below the $250,000 plus territory of Ferraris and McLarens.
$200,000 is still an enormous amount of money, obviously. But it makes the car a tangible competitor in the high-end sports car market, rather than a mythical unicorn that just sits in climate-controlled collector garages.
Right.
But the biggest evidence that the GR-GT is not meant to be Toyota's ultimate $500,000 halo car is actually what they announced right next to it.
And this is the part of the deep dive that gives a lot of traditional car enthusiasts a visceral ick factor.
Oh, yeah.
Alongside this V8 monster, Toyota announced the concept for an all-new Lexus LFA.
The Holy Grail.
But it's going to be fully electric.
Yeah.
And I have to push back on this a bit because when I read that, it physically hurt.
I completely understand.
The original LFA is universally famous for having a screaming 9,500 RPM V10 engine is widely considered the best-sounding engine ever put into a production car. How can you take a nameplate defined by that mechanical wail and make it entirely silent?
It is definitely a jarring thought for an enthusiast, but this raises an important question. What was the actual original purpose of the LFA?
To sound amazing.
We remember it for the sound today, absolutely. But the engineers who built the LFA didn't set out just to make a loud car. It was designed to showcase the absolute peak of Toyota's engineering capabilities at that exact moment in time.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Remember, halfway through its development, they realized aluminum wasn't rigid enough, so they threw away the entire chassis and started over from scratch in carbon fiber, just to prove they could master the material.
I hear what you're saying about the engineering boundary, but you can't just hand-wave away the emotion of that V10.
Sure.
Sound is vibration, it's visceral, it vibrates in your chest. An electric motor is, well, it's clinical and sterile by comparison.
It is a different kind of experience, certainly. But if Toyota genuinely believes that the absolute peak of automotive technology for the next decade is electric, and they are pouring billions of dollars into solid-state batteries, hydrogen fuel cell tech, they even built an experimental electric AE86 coupe with a manual transmission just to see if they could give an EV a soul.
Oh, right, I saw that.
Yeah, so if that's their belief, then an electric LFA perfectly aligns with the original philosophy. It's not abandoning the mission, it's aiming at a new horizon.
So you really have to view these two cars as a matched pair.
Exactly.
The GR-GT is the bridge. It is the final, glorious chapter of the internal combustion book. It's the incredibly expensive tool Akio Toyota is using to teach young engineers how a car breathes, how it communicates.
Yes.
And the electric LFA concept is page 1 of the next book. They are securing their tactile mechanical past while aggressively stepping into the silent future.
Precisely. That is the perfect way to look at it.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Because let's be realistic. Most of us do not have $200,000 lying around to buy a homologated track weapon.
Sadly, no.
Why should you care about a CDO's personal vendetta against BMW?
You should care because of the trickle-down effect.
Right.
The engineering philosophy, the defiance against the spreadsheets, that corporate culture of prioritizing driver emotion, it doesn't stay locked inside a $200,000 supercar. It trickles down into accessible, everyday enthusiast cars.
Yeah, absolutely.
The fact that the GR-GT exists is the exact reason you can go buy a brilliant GR Corolla hatchback or a lightweight GR86 today. It proves that the enthusiast culture inside Toyota is healthy, which means affordable, fun cars will continue to exist in an increasingly sterilized, automated world.
It's a massive global corporation refusing to let the algorithm win, fueled almost entirely by a humiliating loss on a German racetrack a decade and a half ago.
An incredible story.
They built a clean sheet V8 monster to bridge the gap between a tactile past and an electric future, all masterminded by an aging CEO who just wants to pass the soul of driving down to the next generation. But as much as I love that story, it leaves me with one final kind of haunting thought to mull over.
What's that?
If the GR-GT is the final internal combustion lesson,
Yeah.
what happens in 30 years?
Oh.
Right. What happens to the soul of driving when those newly trained young engineers eventually retire and a completely new generation takes over? A generation that has only ever known silent electric motors, regenerative braking, and digital interfaces.
That's a scary thought for car people.
Will they be forced to artificially synthesize the ghost in the machine? Like pumping fake vibrations and exhaust sounds into the cabin through speakers? Or will they invent an entirely new, completely unrecognizable kind of mechanical connection that we can't even fathom right now?
Yeah, that's wild to think about.
Just something to ponder next time you're stuck in traffic next to a sensible crossover. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the engineering, the ego, and the inheritance of the GR-GT. We'll catch you on the next one.